Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you could begin to take your seats prior to the beginning of the ceremony, that would be appreciated. We all need to be sitting down before the beginning of the ceremony, so if you begin to take your seats, you can continue to talk, that's okay. You don't have to be silent or anything. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of His Excellency Mr. Charles Savarin, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, and Mrs. Savarin.
Party, shut! Shoulder, out! Salute! Present! Out!
Isle of beauty, Isle of splendor, Isle to all so sweet and fair. All must surely gaze in wonder at thy gifts so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills and mountains, all these gifts we do extol. Healthy land so like all fountains, giving cheer that warms the soul.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the lands of the free and the home of the brave?
Shoulder, out!
Thank you, Ms. Roll and Ms. Nankwo Marshall, for your beautiful renditions of the national anthems. Now, please remain standing for the morning prayer of the physician, which will be given by Dr. Ricardo Hood from the Department of Clinical Medicine. Dr. Hood.
O God, let my mind be ever clear and enlightened. By the bedside of the patient, let no alien thought deflect it. Let everything that experience and scholarship have taught it be present in it, and hinder it not in its tranquil work. For great and noble are those scientific judgments that serve the purpose of preserving the health and lives of thy creatures. Keep far from me the delusion that I can accomplish all things. Give me the strength, the will, and the opportunity to amplify my knowledge, which yesterday I would not have dreamt of. For the art is great, but the human mind presses untiringly. In the patient, let me ever see only the man. Thy old bountiful one has chosen me to watch over the life and death of thy creatures. I prepare myself now for my calling. Stand thou by me in this great task, so that it may prosper. For without thine aid, man prospers not, even in the smallest things.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. Everyone, please do be seated. So, after such a beautiful and moving introduction, let me now officially welcome everyone to the Ross University School of Medicine White Coat Ceremony for the class of 2020. I'd like to start by welcoming and thanking His Excellency Mr. Charles Savarin, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, and Mrs. Savarin, our other visiting dignitaries, government officials, and other honored guests, faculty and staff, the family and friends who are here with us celebrating today in Dominica, as well as all of you joining this ceremony online via live stream today. And as Senior Associate Dean for the Dominica campus of RUSM, I'd like to extend a special welcome to our incoming students. So welcome, everybody. You will have noticed the boxes that were on the benches and now which sit in front of you on the bench. And you're probably wondering what it is. Well, the boxes contain a small gift from the Ross University Alumni Association, welcoming you to Ross University and the medical profession. I'm sure that you're excited to discover what's actually in the box, but please try to curb your curiosity until after the ceremony is completed and you can open them outside. It's now with a true pleasure and a privilege to ask the Honourable Ian Douglas MP, Minister of Trade and Development and Parliamentary Representative for Portsmouth, to give a welcome to Dominica. Ian.
Thank you very much, Dr. White. Your Excellency, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica and Mrs. Savarin, all other specially invited guests, dignitaries, faculty of Ross, other staff members, students, good afternoon. Good afternoon? Oh, that's better. Good afternoon to the nature island of Dominica, and good afternoon to the nature island of the world. You have in fact made the best decision of your life to come to study at Ross University. I seriously mean that. And I don't think that there are much people who are better placed than me to actually make that pronouncement and make that statement. And I'll tell you why. Ross University and Dominica is a love story that began about 37 years ago. In 1978, I was a toddler at the time. I wouldn't tell you how old I was, but I can tell you I was certainly born and I was a toddler at the time. And I happen to have been placed in the unenviable position of tagging along with my dad, holding on to his pants or his trousers, as he then was the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance of the Commonwealth of Dominica. And I have told you so because he met with this daring entrepreneur, this guy who sat at dinner once with a good friend of his and lamented about a daughter who wanted to go to medical school but could find no entries in any of the medical schools in the United States. So that guy set about on a journey from the Bahamas in the north, and he visited every single Caribbean island, trying to find the most suitable place to invest in a medical school for American students who could not at the time gain places into medical programs in the United States. And lo and behold, his journey took him to the nature island of the Caribbean, the nature island of the world, the Commonwealth of Dominica. A young, up-and-coming, not yet independent country in the Caribbean. And so Dr. Ross met my dad at the time, and being the politician that he was, he took him to the part of the island, or he invited him to the part of the island that he was responsible for, the town of Portsmouth. And Dr. Ross fell in love with the ambience, the atmosphere, the pristine nature, the warm sunsets, the beaches, the rivers, the loving and friendly people, and the love story began, and we never looked back. And so the town of Portsmouth have embraced Ross University. While you are here, you will become our brothers, our sisters, our family, our children, our relatives. However you want to put it, we will cradle you, we will protect you, we will love you, and we will create every single opportunity and atmosphere to ensure that you focus on your studies and you are absolutely successful at your career pursuits. And that is what the Commonwealth of Dominica and Ross University have been able to establish over these years. I don't know if you know, but Ross University happens to be perhaps the biggest offshore medical school outside the United States, and churns out perhaps and puts more residencies or more students into residency programs than any other university or any other medical school outside the United States of America, and perhaps in the United States of America. So you have in fact chosen the best place to study. The government, the fact that I am here, and the fact that His Excellency, the President, the head of state, is here with you, is a clear indication of the importance that we place on the success of this university and ultimately on your success. Portsmouth have grown throughout the years, and every single service that is offered in the capital city of Roseau is here in Portsmouth, and more particularly in Picard. Every single amenity that you wish to have, every service is at your doorstep, literally, at your beck and call, a phone call away. You will be safe because we have the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force who will protect you together with Ross University Security. You will be happy here. We have all of the amenities. Don't spend too much time getting distracted, but we have a few distractions to let your hair down. I want to tell you, as former Minister of Tourism, take some time off, not too much time, but take some time off, because we have some excellent attractions here in Dominica. We have one of the biggest boiling lakes if you are hiking enthusiast. We have a hiking trail that spans the entire island, 13 segments. We have rivers and waterfalls, 365 rivers, one river for every day of the year. Don't spend all your time bathing in them. And before I leave, I want to invite you to an up-and-coming event that I created as Minister of Tourism, and with the Ross University medical students in mind. I placed it at the beginning of the semester or in between semester breaks to allow you the time to come and enjoy it. It's called the Jazz and Creole Activity and Event, which happens on Sunday afternoon at one of the only left 18th century restored forts, old historical fort, Fort Shirley, which is about 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes drive away. I think it's a marvelous activity, a marvelous event, and it's a nice way for you to get to break yourselves into the Dominican scene. Once again, on behalf of the government of Dominica, on behalf of the people of Portsmouth, on behalf of myself, who have been associated with this institution from day one. I remember my dad used to have a small tuck shop right here on the campus. I think IT department is located in that little house right now. And I would come and beat the batter to make little cupcakes and peel the potatoes for fries and pour the cokes into the little cups and stuff. So I have been associated with Ross University literally from birth, if you want to put it that way. And we have grown together. And I am part of a government right now that seriously takes pleasure in associating with Ross and keeping close to the school to ensure that we continue to be the successful venture that we have been, to continue to be world class, to continue to ensure that you get an education in medicine, in medical education, that is second to none in the world. Once again, welcome to Ross University. Welcome to the Commonwealth of Dominica. God bless you and Godspeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas, for your usual dynamic and heartfelt welcome to new students on Island, and also for the plug for Jazz and Creole at the Cabrits. I would encourage you to go if you can, but don't forget what we said in the lecture this morning about how previewing is important. Well, there are no classes on Monday, so now I'd like to welcome to the podium Dr. Joseph Flaherty, the Chancellor and Dean of Ross University School of Medicine. Dr. Flaherty.
Good afternoon. You know, the Honorable Ian Douglas and I have given this talk side by side about 20 times now, and he's taken virtually all my good lines. He almost had nothing when he started, and now I might as well just say I want to second what Honorable Ian Douglas has said. But I do want to say thank you, congratulations, thank you for being here, and you're hosted by a wonderful, beautiful country. Where else are you going to find the President, the Honorable President Savarin and his wife, come to your ceremony to see that you make it? When they say they're behind you, they support you, this is not publicity. This is not a Trump rally. This is not, this is for real. This is real time. And I want to give a special thank you. And if you two happen to skip out of the white coat, shame. I would like to see if we have Sabra Luke in the crowd. She stand up. And if we have Jerma Paula Adams in the crowd. Two Dominica women. Doesn't get any better than that. Thank you for being here and being part of it, and good luck. What I want to say is you made it. It's been a rocky road. We all know that. Some of you have wanted to be a doctor since kindergarten, some 2 years ago. Some of you started studying and getting ready to retake MCATs, got rejections, got difficulties, got started, and somebody told you about Dominica, which you never heard of, which for the first 6 months you pronounced Dominica, and then you found it, you're here. It is a beautiful place. It's a wonderful place. It's almost a community here in Portsmouth made for your learning. So that's what you can do. And it's going to take a lot of that. You're here to study. And the thing I really want to point out is not only did you make it in, all of you can graduate. There's no pyramid scheme here. There's no, we hope you make it. There's no look around, your right and your left, one of you will not make it. All of you can make it. All of you can make it. More important, look at the faculty. They're here to see you make it. We're not here to close doors on you. We're here to open doors for you. And we want you. You won't make it just because of our good intentions, nor your good intentions. You make it because you work hard. As I say many times, there's no shortcut to working hard. You got to study. You got to study, study, study. You got to get up in the morning. You got to look at your schedule on Sundays, write out a study plan for the day and for the week, and follow through with it. You got to find out how you study best, because you all study differently. You got to limit yourself to all the many, many things, particularly electronic, that can interfere with your study. And you have to get at it. I do look back and think of how much has changed in the few short years since I started medical school. And I usually think of how many things have changed, you know? Automobiles, airplanes, other developments since I started. But I think what I remember most is what's remained the same. You are starting out, as I was, on a very challenging journey, adventure into the unknown. It's no different than climbing a mountain you've never seen or heard of or been described before, or the North Pole, or any other adventures some of your age mates are now embarking upon. You're really going after something different. You don't know what it's going to be like. You're not sure how you'll be tested. And it is a challenge. It's a challenge you can make. You're going to need support from home. I'm so happy to see some parents here. I hope there are more watching online. Doesn't matter how old you are, you need your parents. You need your brothers and sisters. You need your family. I remember when I was in medical school, my mother, about once a month, would send a shoebox filled with chocolate chip cookies. That was all by postal mail, you know, all wrapped up and, you know, not same-day delivery or anything. And how everybody would run to my room, so the cookies were gone within about 5 minutes. Everybody was hungry for support, and chocolate chip cookies. I mean, I wouldn't undermine my mother's chocolate chip cookies, but you want to feel the people at home are waving the flag for you. Look around to your classmates. These are no longer your competitors. These are no longer people trying to get your spot in medical school. You're already there. These are your colleagues. These are your friends. These are your survivor partners. These are the ones that are going to help you get into a residency by working together and working collectively and continuing that way of thinking throughout your career. And also look at the staff, as I said, and the faculty. They are so geared to be of help to you, so innovative in how they're going about it. And I think it really pays off in the end. The end, there's many, many things that make a doctor. You certainly have to have a knowledge base. You have to have a certain skill base. And finally, The most human thing about a medicine is its personal basis. You touch the lives in a very real way of people you come in contact with. They tell you things about themselves they've told nobody in their life, not even their parents or their husband or wife. They're frightened about things. They come to you and seek help, aid, guidance, understanding. It's a real privilege to be able to do this. You're privileged to be here. Take every advantage of your opportunity and enjoy medical school. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Flaherty. At this point, I'd like to welcome the President of the Student Governance Association, Mr. Tony Zyke.
Hello, my name is Tony Zyke and I'm president of the student body. On behalf of your classmates, I'd like to welcome you to Dominica. It takes a lot of courage to leave your old life behind and move to a small island to study medicine. When you have the opportunity here to step forward and perform an interview in front of your classmates, or to take charge on an emergency simulation, I hope that you guys remember that same bravery and sense of adventure that brought you out here in the first place. This is your journey. It'll be what you make it. I have the honor of introducing Dr. Paula Wales, the Senior Associate of Academic and Student Affairs.
Thank you, Tony. Wow, it's exciting to be here. Are you all thrilled to be here? Yes? Good. So it is great to see you here today, including the parents that I shared an unexpected adventure with in Guadeloupe. Let's hear, where are my parents? We survived some trying times in Guadeloupe, but we made it here. And as the Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Student Affairs, I want to extend a special welcome to our incoming students. We are thrilled you're here. As you may know, Ross University School of Medicine has one goal, one mission, one dream. And that is, we want to give you the opportunity to become a physician and healer. Since 1978, more than 12,000 students have graduated with their MD from Ross. Additionally, over the past 10 years, Ross has placed more graduates in U.S. residency slots than any other medical school in the world. Not hearing raucous applause, and knowing that what I said was so important, I'm going to slow down and say it one more time and give you another chance. Over the past 10 years, thank you, Dr. Flaherty. Here we go. Ross University School of Medicine has placed more graduates in U.S. residency slots than any other medical school in the world. There! We can and do make dreams come true. And we're very proud of the diversity of our students who represent many cultures, religions, and ethnic backgrounds. We are simply delighted to welcome your class, and I have the privilege of sharing a little bit of information about your classmates with you. Okay, ready? So 56% of you are male, and 44% are female, so depending on how you view that, congratulations on your odds. Your average age, okay, ready? Your average age is 26. Now get this. You range in age, and don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to identify yourselves. You range in age from 20 to 60 years of age. That's impressive, isn't it? So now everyone's looking around like, ooh. So your average GPA is 3.2, and your average MCAT on the old scale is 25. On the new MCAT, it's 496. It's pretty good. So this is the part where we might start to get a little competitive, right? And that's okay. If you feel compelled to cheer for any group that resonates with you, you're invited to do so. Okay, are you ready for the cheering, Dr. White? All right, here we go. The undergraduate university sending the most graduates to your class is, I usually get a drum roll or something. Come on. All right. Florida International University. All right. There's a tie between the schools sending the next highest number of graduates to your class, and the tie is between, all right, the University of Florida. Oh, go Gators. You have to go like this. And the University of Toronto. Yeah. All right. Okay. And rounding out the top schools in terms of the highest number of graduates sent to your class, we have a five-way tie, so I expect lots of cheering here, between, you're so good. All right, ready? The University of Texas at Austin. All right, let's see if this next group can beat that. University of California, Riverside. Okay. Okay. Florida Atlantic University. Arizona State University. And Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. Okay. In terms of the most common first name in your class, there's a tie between, sorry, Brittany, Amir, Sarah, and Jonathan. Congratulations. In terms of the most common last name in your class, there's a tie between, all right, okay, Singh and Hall. Interestingly, Singh is the most common first name, or most common last name in the second semester class as well, all right? Okay, there's a five-way tie between the next most common last name in your class, between, okay, Patel, which everyone expected. It's also the most common last name in the third semester class. Torres, Perez, Green, and Hawkins. So the point of all that is please be sure to use your full name and your banner ID in all official communication. As a class, you were born in 36 unique countries. 118 of you were born in the US, 11 in India, 7 in Canada. There's no cheering. All right, here we go. 6 in Pakistan, 6 from Nigeria. There we go. 3 in South Korea, and 3 in Egypt, which I thought was interesting. The remainder of you were born in 29 other countries. In terms of US residents, 36 of you are from Florida. All right, let's see if this group's louder. 28 are from California. 20 of you are from Texas. Whoa! 13 of you are from New York. And 9 from New Jersey. In terms of the most represented Canadian province, 12 of you are from Ontario. Good job. Members of the incoming class have participated in an array of diverse activities. More than 146 of you have volunteered at hospitals or clinics. We don't hear any love for our volunteers. 31 of you have volunteered in nonprofit charities and organizations. 13 of you have participated in pre-med organizations, and I think that's probably underreported. Over 62 of you are athletes, and this is an interesting list. So listen to all these athletes we have. We have coaches in the group, we have lifeguards, we have competitive swimmers, we have football players, basketball players, baseball players, flag football players. We even have, I didn't even know this existed, a competitive rock climber, right? We have tennis players, we have archers, we have a competitive ballroom dancer in the group. Oh, and there she is. We have a jujitsu instructor. Not claiming that. Okay. We have volleyball players. We have marathon runners. We have surfers, cyclists, sailors, and soccer players, including an NCAA Division I soccer player. So watch out during intramural time. 8 of you are members of fraternities and sororities, and several of you are musicians. Among the group, we have singers, we have drummers, we have guitarists, and we even have our very own trumpet player in this group. And one of you was a volunteer in an orphanage in Costa Rica. How cool is that? Yeah. Everyone goes, aw. It wasn't you. I don't know who it was. I know, I'm just teasing. All right. Your fellow classmates came to us with interesting prior occupations. Some of your classmates include, there are over 55 medical professionals, right? We have pharmacy technicians, we have RNs, we have EMTs and paramedics, we have laboratory technologists, we have scribes, and we even have medical and nursing assistants. So buddy up with one of those folks as you start studying. 43 of you were teachers, teaching assistants, and tutors, and one of you even served as a webmaster. Cool. So, and in the 20 years that I've been in medical education, this is a first for me. One of you intentionally dressed in a bite suit, B-I-T-E, bite suit, and was chased by a Belgian Malinois, which is a big shepherd-like dog. So you were in a bite suit and let a dog go after them, which I was like, wow, that's a surprise. I read lots of these things. It's cool. So we have students who've authored or co-authored publications in major medical journals, and we even have a celebrity in this class. I won't identify the celebrity, but they were a host of a radio show. Cool, huh? So the bottom line is we welcome each and every single one of you, and we celebrate your diversity. We are thrilled you're here.
Thank you, Dr. Wales, for demonstrating that demographics can be useful and fun. So now, Dr. Nancy Selfridge, Chair for the Department of Clinical Medicine and Assistant Dean for Clinical Sciences, will now provide us with an introduction to the medical profession. Dr. Selfridge.
Let's see. Is it up? The guys are helping me in the back. Is that not sweet? Okay. Well, I need to figure out how to move the slide. We've met, haven't we? Most of us. Yeah. So good to see you once again, and we'll meet again, I promise. So welcome to everybody, but welcome especially to our new students. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the meaning of the white coat, and I hope that you reflect on what it means to you, and I expect you to reflect regularly on that and think about how the white coat changes as you evolve and change and grow through medicine as well. We're going to start with looking at a couple of paintings. This is part of your cultural literacy in medicine. And some of you have probably seen these paintings before because, frankly, they're pretty famous, both by the same artist, a realist artist from the United States, Thomas Eakins, and you can see he was born in 1844, died in 1916. If you pay close attention to these pictures, you're going to see some similarities and differences. The one on the left is called the Gross Clinic, not because what they're doing is gross, but because it represents Dr. Gross, who was a famous surgeon and teacher, and you can see him in the foreground there, with somewhat balding forehead, and the light shining off of his forehead, and interestingly, off his scalpel, and his hands look like they're covered with blood as well, at least the right hand. If you look on the left, we have the Agnew Clinic, named after Dr. Agnew, also a famous surgeon. Both of these doctors are in the operating theater, and they're in settings where they're doing their surgery, but also teaching at the same time. But if you look at the dates here, you can see that there's a 14-year difference, with the earlier picture being on your left. in the Gross Clinic. Look at what the physician and the surgery attendants are wearing. Dark clothing, which was the norm at the time. But just 14 years later, the garb of the physician in the operating theater and elsewhere changes dramatically to more closely resemble how physicians dress today, although oftentimes we wear that surgical blue in the operating suite. You can see a big change here. You can see Dr. Agnew is dressed in a white robe or cover, and so are his attendants. And this big change happened coincident with our changing notions about cleanliness and antisepsis and really the germ theory of disease. So now we wear white coats. What does your white coat mean? Well, today is the very last day you're going to wear this in celebration. And I know some of you are looking at this picture and thinking, oh, she sneaked into my apartment this morning and took a picture. I didn't. I found it online, and I think that's about as creepy. So over the next several years, I anticipate that your white coat is going to mean a lot of different things to you, and I've got a short list here of the things that it's meant to me upon reflection, but also when I've interviewed my medical colleagues. A cloak of compassion and garment of trust, these are quite symbolic meanings. A coat of mail, and what brought this to mind? Well, we do go out and do a form of battle, don't we, against human suffering and disease, and we try to help people, and it is in a way a battlefield. Hazmat suit, I hope I don't need to explain that to you, but you're going to learn plenty about that in short order. The white coat, remember, this does protect your clothing to a degree. Team uniform, yes, we talked about interprofessional skills. We are members of a team, and your white coat identifies you as a team member. Tear catcher, yes, sometimes our colleagues and our patients need an embrace, and they need a shoulder to cry on. Pajamas, a pillow, and blankie. Why? Yes, one day you will find yourself sleeping in your white coat or sleeping on it. It's inevitable. A sauna, that is particularly true in Dominica, where your white coat is an unwelcome layer, or for me, having trained and practiced in the upper Midwest, it was an extra layer of insulation, and those of you from Canada, yes, you will understand this. Or an indicator that you need to do the laundry. When it gets a little dingy around the sleeves or around the collar, you'll know it's time to do the laundry, just like you know when you run out of clean underwear. Or a hair shirt. What do I mean by a hair shirt? It's another symbolic meaning. So the definition of hair shirt is self-imposed punishment, suffering, sacrifice, or penance. So why would I even put that here in relation to the white coat? There will be times in the profession when you are frustrated or even disappointed with yourself. And your white coat is a reminder of your profession. So I want you to know from my perspective that your relationship with your work in medicine is a relationship with work and yourself, and that it doesn't always go well. It's like a wonderful marriage, many, many high points and some low points as well. And I hope that you're in love with it. I hope you're in love with it, and that means the full Monty to you, for better or for worse. Okay, white coat hypertension. Why did I put this on here? Your white coat has power. One of the things it can do is it can raise the blood pressure of other people. Some patients experience high blood pressure only when they walk into a medical setting or only when they see a doctor. And you have to realize what this means. They're not intrinsically ill, but on the basis of fear or situational anxiety, which is underpinned by assumption and belief and maybe past negative experience, their blood pressure goes up. So if you think about this and this power, I want to remind you that you have a choice. You can be a placebo and have a consistent positive effect on the health of the people around you as a physician, or you can be a nocebo, the exact opposite, somebody who has a detrimental effect on the health of the people around them. And this is just not based on the emotional impact that you have on people. We affect people based on the way we behave, our demeanor, and our ability to show caring. We have an effect at the cell biology level. I'll show you evidence later this semester to that fact. But remember that who you are impacts the health of your patients, not just the drugs you prescribe and the therapies you conceive of. So Dr. Arthur M. Townsend was a physician. You can see the dates he lived here, and you can assume that he attended medical school around the turn of the 20th century. He was an African-American physician, and at that time, there were only 2 medical schools in the United States that took African-American students. And so you can, I think, assume that his life wasn't super easy, that he probably had a lot of striving on the way to becoming a physician. He went to Meharry in Nashville, Tennessee, and he ended up practicing there his whole life long as well. And though there's not much written about him, this quote is ascribed to him. He said, "The good physician does all the good he can to all the people he can in all the ways he can." If you reflect on this, you realize he's not just talking about when you're in the office, when you're at work, when you're on rounds. He's saying all. This is a tall order and high expectation. I would add this, 24/7, because your career is something that you wear all the time. You don't put it on and take it off like your white coat. So think about what that is going to require of you. And I shared this quote with you earlier this week. This is Anna Quinlan, who spoke at the AAMC meeting in November 2013. She tells us what our patients expect of us. By virtue of choosing the profession, we patients expect you to be better than the rest of us. And when she spoke at this convention, for a full hour, she went into details about what exactly patients do expect us to be better at. And it was everything: smarter, better listeners, more caring, more compassionate, et cetera, et cetera. Very tall order. So that leads me to my favorite quote from this guy, who is who? I want to hear it. Tom Hanks, what's the movie? A League of Their Own. So you've seen it. I'm so grateful. So I'm going to set this up a little bit, because he said something I think is really important in one of the scenes of this movie, and it isn't, there's no crying in baseball. So if you recall, Tom Hanks was playing a washed-up baseball player who had to quit the game because of alcoholism and an injury. But now, in this movie, he's coaching women's baseball, which has become insanely popular in the U.S. because the male athletes have all been drafted into the U.S. military to fight in World War II. So now his team has qualified for the World Series. And in the scene in question, he sees his star player, his catcher, played by Gina Davis, dressed in her street clothes with her suitcase, ready to leave with her husband, walking away from the game and the team right before the World Series. So he goes up to her and he says, "You're leaving." And she just nods. And he says, "If you want to go home with your husband and make 100 babies, who am I to stop you? That's your right. But I just have to know why, because you love this. Baseball is in your blood." And she said to him, "It just got too hard." So one day, in the next year and a half or so, you and I will be passing on campus, and maybe by that time I'll know your name. I'm going to try. And we'll greet each other. And I'll say, "Hey, how's it going?" And you'll say, "Oh, Dr. Selfridge, it's fine, but it's really hard." And I'm going to say to you exactly what he said to his star player at that moment. It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great. So today, welcome to the medical profession, to the hardness and greatness of it all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Selfridge. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Brian Hayes, who is our Associate Dean for Student Affairs on campus, to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Hayes.
Good afternoon. Good job. Students, good to see you again. Hope the first week has gone well. Everyone else, good to meet you. It is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker of this semester's White Coat Ceremony, Dr. Mark Kipton. After graduating high school, Dr. Kipton joined the U.S. Army, where he served as a combat medical specialist until he was honorably discharged. That same year, he graduated from Radford University with his bachelor's degree. Following Radford, he sat right where you are, receiving his white coat from RUSM, and later graduating, completing a family practice residency where he was named Academic Chief Resident. Dr. Kipton's medical career has been spent as a practitioner as well as an educator. First, practicing at Associated Physicians in Waynesboro, Virginia, then transferring to Lithopolis, say that 10 times fast, Ohio, where he practiced at Tri-County Family Physicians and served as supervisor and educator for nurse practitioners. Then in Lancaster, Ohio, when practicing at Fairfield Medical Center, he served as educator and guest lecturer for lipid management and supervisor and educator for nurse practitioners. Next, in Cambridge, Ohio, he practiced at Medical Associates of Cambridge while serving as diabetic educator and guest lecturer for diabetic classes and supervisor and educator for nurse practitioners and physician assistants. And throughout most of his career, he served as a preceptor for medical residents in family practice. Finally, starting in January of this year, Dr. Kempton decided to come back to Dominica as an assistant professor in the Department of Clinical Medicine, right here at Ross University School of Medicine. Dr. Kempton's current and previous certifications include American Board of Family Practice, Advanced Cardiac Life Support, Moderate Complexity Lab Director, Pediatric Advanced Life Support, and Advanced Life Support in Obstetrics. Because medicine isn't his only passion, in his spare time he studied and received a Master's of Divinity from the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, which, through the Southern Baptist Convention, was commissioned as a missionary to Dominica in 2015. With him in Dominica are his wife of 23 years, Dr. Audra Kempton, also an RUSM graduate, and 13-year-old daughter Grace, another possible RUSM graduate. And let's say 2029. That's right. So please extend a warm welcome to this year's White Coat speaker, Dr. Mark Kempton.
Let us take a few minutes to consider what you've just done and why. By entering medical school, what you have done is committed yourself to a lifetime of study and sacrifice. Not only have you postponed the ability to gain an income, but you will help to finance the profession that's probably one of the most challenging courses of study in the world. You did all of this so that you could help other people. Let that sink in. The kind of people who are willing to make that kind of sacrifice for that kind of reason deserve honor and respect. Welcome to the medical field. This is a field that asks the brightest to also be some of the most committed and compassionate. A profession that requires you to give up your time, your talents, and your testimonies, your treasures, in the hope of helping others. No one is entitled to be a doctor. It has to be earned. It will be difficult. So I'm hoping to help to prepare you for some of the challenges ahead. And to do that, I want to explain what and why a little further. I'm hoping that by sharing a few thoughts, will make the obstacles that lie ahead of you a little less difficult. I intend to paint a clear picture as to what will be expected of you. And then I hope to share a few stories as to why, from my practice and my experience, those sacrifices will be worth it. What will be expected of you can be stated simply: put patients first. To examine that concept more fully, we'll look at the Hippocratic Oath. To examine why the sacrifices are worth the cost for the admission into the medical field, I hope to plan to share a few stories from my 20-plus years of family practice to explore that a little further. The testimonies from those experiences are intended to fuel the desires that you've already demonstrated. I want to encourage each of you as strongly as I can that you have made the right choice by being here. So to begin, I'd like to start where you are now, 26 years ago. I sat where you are. Well, technically. This annex didn't exist. The IGA didn't exist, the gym didn't exist, the bank didn't exist, the phone store didn't exist. You kind of get the picture. What we did have was the library, which had a cubicle that literally did have my name on it at one time. We had one large building that housed all the classrooms we lived in, and we had one administrative building, and that was about it. There were no social clubs, no campus ministries, no Friday night videos. What you had was what you brought with you and little else. In 1990, the existence, just the bare necessities were vastly different. Food was at the local market on Saturday mornings. Laundry was done in the river, involved a rock and some liquid soap. Electricity often was out and expected to be out on the weekends. The water filter had to be there because if there was a heavy rain, there were freshwater shrimp in your water supply. Consider this, there was no air conditioning. 90-degree heat, doing your dissections, fighting off the mayflies. We reeked of formaldehyde and sweat. Now, fortunately, all of that has changed for the better. You will not face the same difficulties that we did, but that does not mean you will not face challenges. Medical school, the best analogy I've heard, it's like trying to take a drink out of a fire hydrant. The volume of material you're trying to learn in such a compressed period of time is enormous. It will be difficult. So how you view these challenges, I believe, will make all the difference. In my experience, those people who spend their mental energies looking back at what they've left behind will struggle. For those people who look forward to the opportunities that lie ahead tend to strive and tend to thrive. When I arrived here, I gave little thought to what I'd left behind. I'd been given an opportunity to chase a dream that I thought I had lost. Ross, for me, was a gift. It is a gift. It's the dream of becoming a physician. When I was sitting where you are today, I was grateful, I was focused on the goals ahead. Each of you has a story of why you were here. While our stories may be different in where we all come from, we share a common goal as to what we're trying to achieve. The goal of being a physician. So with that goal in mind, I would like to start by making it clear what will be expected of you. And to help answer that question, we will turn to an English translation of the original Hippocratic Oath. And bear with me, some of these words, some of these terms, they seem ancient, but the concepts, the core, the belief of what founded medicine has never changed. I swear by Apollo the physician, and Asclepius the surgeon, likewise Hygeia and Panacea, and call all the gods and goddesses to witness that I will observe and keep this underwritten oath to the utmost of my power and judgment. I will reverence my master who taught me the art, equal with my parents. I will allow him all things necessary for his support, thank you very much, and will consider his sons as brothers. I will teach them my art without reward or agreement, and I will impart all my acquirement, instructions, and whatever I know to my master's children as to my own, and likewise to all my pupils, who shall bind and tie themselves by a professional oath, but to none else. With regards to healing the sick, I will devise and order for them the best diet, according to my judgment and means, and I will take care that they suffer no harm or damage. Nor shall any man entreaty upon me to administer poison to anyone. Neither will I counsel any man to do so. Moreover, I will give no sort of medicine to any pregnant woman with a view to destroy the child. Further, I will comport myself and use my knowledge in a godly manner. I will not cut for the stone, but will commit that affair entirely to the surgeons. Whatsoever house I may enter, may my visit be for the convenience and advantage of the patient, and I will willingly refrain from doing any injury or wrong from falsehood, and in a special manner from any acts of an amorous nature, whatever may be the rank of those that it may be my duty to cure, whether mistress or servant, bond or free. Whatever in the course of my practice I may see or hear, whatever may happen to obtain knowledge of, if it be not proper to repeat it, I will keep sacred and secret within my own breast. If I faithfully observe this oath, may I thrive and prosper in my fortune and profession, and live in the estimation of posterity, or on breach thereof, may the reverse be my fate. Let me summarize these concepts. We are under God's authority, and we all will be held accountable for what we do. Medicine should be about cooperation, not competition. We have a responsibility to be both good students and good teachers. First, do no harm. Value life. Know your limitations. All people, regardless of their place in society, have dignity. Respect people's privacy. These ideals come from antiquity, yet they've helped to keep the medical profession in high esteem to this very day. You will be entrusted to uphold this esteem for those who will follow you. I challenge each of you to hold firm to these principles. They will help to guide you through the difficulties of a changing world. Our societies are constantly changing, so much so that we debate when life begins, when it is ended, and at what point life is no longer worth living. If we ever let go of what is doing best for our patients, we will have lost our way. These principles boil down to putting the patient first. Hold that principle when you are fighting against an insurance company or a government policy or any other force that would deny putting the patient first. You will be the advocate for your patients in a world that is increasingly hostile to their needs. And the principle of putting patient first begins now. You will be asked to sacrifice your time, your talents, your treasures for the opportunity to put patients first. Before you are let loose on the world as doctors, you will be asked to demonstrate your willingness to put the needs of others before your own. Are you willing to train? Are you willing to put on hold any worldly gain for the opportunity to enter into the drama of other people's lives? Because if you are, you'll be given the gift of a lifetime. You'll be given the rewards and responsibilities of becoming a physician. The oath not only offers a guide as to what we should do, but it gives a hint as to why this calling is of such value. The joy of healing the sick offers benefits that go beyond the mere external rewards. So to examine why these sacrifices are worth the cost I'd like to share a few stories from my own experience. After 20 plus years in family practice, I understand so much more now than I did when I first began. In the famous words of Nancy Pelosi, you won't know what's in the health care bill until you pass the health care bill. Now, what I hope she meant to say is that until you've experienced something, you're not going to fully understand it. That's where I was when I was where you are. So I'm hoping that by sharing my experience, it will help you to connect with why you're going to go through what you're going through and why that is so much worth it. Medicine comes alive when you have connected with other people's lives. Being doctors allows us to access every aspect of the human condition. From conception to the grave, we are involved in the hurts and the hopes in the lives of our patients. So the first story I'd like to share with you is regarding my OB rotation as a medical student. Back in my day, students made their own clinical rotations. My wife and I traveled the entire East Coast, going from one hospital to the next. We arrived at Jamaica Hospital in Queens, New York, to find out that the place that we were planning on staying was asking for another $200 rent beyond what we had agreed to. Another student from Ross had family that happened to live in Queens. A phone call later, he arranged for us to stay with them. Sight unseen, they allowed complete strangers to move in with them for 6 weeks. My wife and I began our OB rotation the very next day. take a moment, look around this room, and consider those that have gone before you. You have now joined the largest medical family in the world. Your family has grown exponentially. Make friends with the people sitting around you. You'll be slogging through the same difficulties, trying to reach the same goals. This is one of the greatest resources you have. Being part of the Ross family, you're part of one of the largest medical communities in the world. That is a huge asset. Now, I digress. Suffice it to say, if it were not for the help of my classmates, I would not have had the success in medical school that I enjoyed. So the OB rotation was intense. In the first hour of the first day, I started my first IV line. By the end of that day, I delivered the first of many babies to be born during that rotation. So much happened so fast. Women screaming in pain on the way into the maternity ward, holding bundles of joy on their way out. Words cannot express the wonder at the birth of a child, the miraculous changes that take place with that very first breath, the emotions of anguish and pain that quickly turn into elation the first time you hold on to a baby. We would pull a 24-hour call shift and then work another 12-hour day. More than once, I caught myself falling asleep in the middle of writing a note, my wife nudging me back awake. I'd spent years in the military, getting up at 4 in the morning, but I did not start drinking coffee until I started delivering babies. During the few downtimes we had between deliveries, I would go hang out in the nursery. Having an infant look up at you with the satisfaction that their needs were being met soothes the soul. It was here that I first realized that working with children was something I loved to do. Their agendas are so much simpler than most adults. Their requests are straightforward. Hold me, feed me, love me. It's pure joy when you've been able to meet their needs. A resting baby rocked gently to sleep is its own greatest reward. Well, I finished medical school, landed a residency position at Altman Family Practice in Canton, Ohio. As a resident, one of my patients was a career missionary to Benin, West Africa. Her name was Barbara. She and her family would come home on furlough and share life about the wilds in West Africa. My first encounter with this healthy young woman was talking about all the infectious diseases she had personally experienced. In my wide-eyed amazement, I sat and listened to her stories, and I was so glad that God had called her into the mission field, and I was also quite certain her stories had nothing to do with my life. And then I graduated. And then she asked a piercing question. Do you think that God might be using the talents that He's given you to reach a world that has no access to health care? Next thing I know, I'm on a plane to West Africa. I went with a great deal of trepidation. I had no idea what was ahead. But I'm so glad I went because life has never been the same since. And there have been many teams, many trips since that first trip, and thousands of lives have been impacted. One of those opportunities, we've had an opportunity to work with an orphanage for HIV children that now serves about 100 children. Just so many things we could have never imagined when I was sitting where you are, that medicine opened opportunities. You just don't know what's ahead. Now, there's too many stories to share from the medical mission trips, but let me share 4 principles from those trips. Wash your hands religiously, number 1. We live in a world of sickness, disease, and death. Pray without ceasing. None of us have the job title of Messiah. We all need help. Jesus wept. Jesus had compassion on the difficulties and the hurts that he saw around him. And I know all of us don't necessarily share the same faith, but we share in the same conditions. We live in a world that's hurting, and each of us can share in compassion. Rejoice always. We can share hope because we can offer help to a world that is hurting. My experiences at Ross uniquely prepared me for opportunities that would take me around the world. And the final story I'd like to share with you is in regards to a patient that I became very close to who died. The first time I met Margie, I knew I was in over my head. Her long-standing diabetes had destroyed every organ system of her body. I really had no idea what was keeping her alive. That wasn't until I got to know her. And I better understood that she had an unstoppable spirit. She gave me the understanding of the proverb, the outward man is in a state of decay. The inward man is renewed day by day. Just one example of this was as we had to do a rectal exam, for reasons I won't go into, right around Christmas time, as we're getting to the end of her exam, she breaks into "O Holy Night." I'll never hear Christmas carols quite the same way. We laughed until we cried. Margie helped me to better understand that I was not treating her diabetes, I was treating her. She made it clear that she was not going to give up her peanut M&Ms, and that she knew that was part of what was killing her. She wanted me to help her in the areas that she was willing to listen to my advice. And often, she just wanted me to listen to her hurts and her hopes. When she eventually died, many years later than it was expected, the words of Patch Adams came to mind. If you treat a disease, you win or you lose. If you treat a patient, I guarantee you win every time. I knew I had not been beaten by her diabetes. Margie and I shared in the victory of getting the most out of her life. And I like to think that with my help, she got more years or more mileage out of the years she had. In closing, let me say that the greatest gift I've received and from 20 plus years of family practice has been the internal rewards. Spending a life in the service of my fellow man has been glorious. The opportunity to be involved in sharing in the hurts and hopes is a gift. When I sat where you are now, I could not have imagined laughing and crying at all of life's diversity. I measure success in the hope brought into the lives of others. Helping others by giving hope is why we do what we do, regardless of whether we're students, teachers, faculty. This is why we're here. Each of you must examine for yourselves why you are here. What you believe will have to hold your course in the midst of the challenges ahead of you. I'm asking you to believe that there is no greater reward than putting others first. Knowing you have helped another is its own greatest reward, because there is no greater love than this, that someone would lay down their lives for their friends, and that is what is being asked of you, and it is absolutely worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kempton, for your inspiring words of wisdom for our new students. We now come to the important part of the ceremony, which is to don those white coats. Now, there's a little bit of instruction needed here because there's a lot of you. So just listen, unlike you were doing this morning in the lecture. At the appropriate time, follow the instructions of the ushers that you will see in front of you. You'll come down and approach faculty to my left and to my right, and those faculty will assist you in donning your white coat. We're going to start this process one row at a time, and we will begin at the back of the classroom. So, as your row is identified by the usher, please stand and proceed to the center aisle, and you will then move down and stand in front of a faculty member. for the donning of your coat, and then proceed up the steps at the sides and return to your seats on the far outside aisles. At all times, please follow the directions of the ushers. So ushers, please lead us in the donning. And you gave yourselves a round of applause without me even having to tell you to do it, which is good. You all look splendid. Good look at the start of your medical education. Please remain standing. I now welcome Dr. Alison Dobby, Senior Associate Dean for Curriculum and Accreditation at IUSM, to the podium, who's going to lead you in the Hippocratic Oath. Dr. Dobby.
Good afternoon. How does it feel? Feels okay, all right? Like Dr. Selfridge, I have to figure out how to advance these slides. There we go. So you heard Dr. Kimpton talk about the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath was first written in Greek in the 5th century BC. It's by Hippocrates, which means that for the last 25 centuries, physicians have been reciting at least one version of this oath. The first version in Greek, there were later Latin versions and later English versions, including the one Dr. Kimpton shared with you earlier. Today, we're going to recite together a more modern version of the oath that was produced in 1964, first out of Tufts University. So I'm going to recite the oath, and I'd like you to recite it with me. We'll recite it quite slowly. And as you do, please think about what these words mean, because these are the words you're going to live by for the rest of your life. Why are we asking you to recite the Hippocratic Oath today? You're just in the first semester of medical school. The answer is because becoming a physician is a journey, and you are taking these first steps. And this is the first time you'll recite the oath, but it won't be the last. I would like to invite all physicians who are present who'd care to reaffirm their oath to also stand and take the oath with us as we recite together. I swear to fulfill, to the best of my ability and judgment, this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those physicians in whose steps I walk, and gladly share such knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. I will apply for the benefit of the sick all measures which are required, avoiding these twin traps of overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. I will remember that there is art to medicine as well as science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will not be ashamed to say I know not, nor will I fail to call in my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for a patient's recovery. I will respect the privacy of my patients, for their problems are not disclosed to me that the world may know. Most especially must I tread with care in matters of life and death. If it is given me to save a life, all thanks. But it may also be within my power to take a life. This awesome responsibility must be faced with great humbleness and awareness of my own frailty. Above all, I must not play at God. I will remember that I do not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being whose illness may affect the person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems if I am to care adequately for the sick. I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. I will remember that I remain a member of society with special obligations to all my fellow human beings, those sound of mind and body as well as the infirm. If I do not violate this oath, may I enjoy life and art, respected while I live and remembered with affection thereafter. May I always act so as to preserve the finest traditions of my calling, and may I long experience the joy of healing those who seek my help. Thank you. You may be seated. So thank you, future physicians. This photograph on this slide is the Bute Hall at the University of Glasgow in Scotland, where I first said the Hippocratic Oath in Latin in 1982. Now, the University of Glasgow is not Hogwarts, although kind of looks a little bit like Hogwarts, but it was the place where I learned to become a physician. And you folks don't have Hogwarts, but you do have a magical nature island. You do have a tropical paradise, and it's here that you're going to begin this marvelous transition from being a medical student to a physician. So I would like to thank you all for saying the oath, and best of luck to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Dobby. At this time, I'd like Dr. Flaherty, Dr. Dobby, Dr. Wales, and Dr. Hayes to join me at the podium to present some tokens of our appreciation to our guests. First of all, Dr. Flaherty will present a bouquet of flowers to Mrs. Saverin. Dr. Dobby will present a gift to our white coat speaker, Dr. Kimpton. And Dr. Wales will present a floral bouquet to Mrs. White. White, that's my name. What a coincidence. And finally, Dr. Hayes will present a gift to the white coat speaker's guest, his wife, Mrs. Kimpton. Finally, I'd like to thank all of our presenters, dignitaries, guests, faculty, and staff, our current students who assisted with this special ceremony, and especially our new students for a very successful and, I hope, inspiring and motivating white coat ceremony. Now, please stand for the retreat of the colours.
Please remain standing for the departure of His Excellency, Mr. Charles Savron, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, and Mrs. Savron. Please be seated. So anytime the president of a country leaves, there's a little bit of security. So that's what's going on right now. We're waiting for security to give us the clearance to release folks. Okay? So at this time, please remain seated while we allow our visiting dignitaries, visitors, and faculty to depart first, after which our ushers will escort you outside to, and you're welcome to join us for refreshments.